So I've got a great tip for you guys today, okay? It's one of the quickest ways to gain more distance and more compression, and it all has to do with your lead wrist, right? I've got the Hack Motion 3D wrist sensor on my lead wrist. I use it with all my students. One thing that I see with all of my really good players and ball strikers, and I see this, you see it in all the Hack Motion data, okay? It's very small, very simple, very elusive. Their lead wrist goes from some degree of extension. You can see on Hack Motion, I have about 20 degrees of extension. At address, or there's a cup in my lead wrist, you can see I've got a rubber T in there to kind of show it. When it goes to impact, my lead forearm supinates, the lead wrist bows or flexes, and now I'm at -7. And that's what your average tour player does. They lose about 20 degrees. So from address to impact, look at what they're doing to the golf club. And that might not look strange to you, but boy, it is very closed and very de-lofted, right? I'm kind of doing that a little more so. But to really prove a point, when I put most of my students on here, right, especially 10 handicaps and above, their lead wrist is always extending through the golf ball. So in an effort to swing the club faster, their lead wrist is going, you can see those numbers there of extension, it's just going 20, 30, 40, 50. They'll gain more club head speed, but they're adding loft to their irons. And a lot of times in an effort to do it, it's messing with their weight transfer, their balance, a lot of other issues, okay? So really the gold tip there, right? I really learned this from Ben Hogan. If you look at this, book was written years ago. Hogan's talking about the same lead arm action and how important it is, right? This supination of the lead arm that allows this lead wrist to bow. And if you really look at that in reflection of this big club, that's really the only way I'm gonna be compressing this golf ball, subtracting loft, having shaft lean, and then turning the club around the corner with a lot of good pivot power and leverage, right? Anytime we start to see this, that club is not gonna be moving with my body, and I'm really kind of just using this hand and arm swing to get my power, okay? But here's the rub of this, okay? If you actually felt what this feels like to bow your lead wrist this much, you can see that's a little exaggerated. That's exactly what impact feels like. What squares the club, because you can see how closed it is my body turning and tilting. Now the face is square. And people don't realize that, but a good club face is totally hooded and de-lofted because of that movement that these good players are doing, right? And that bad players are never doing. They're going like this, right through the hitting area, they're turning it down like this, and the ball doesn't go low and left. It should, look at it, because their body's under and rotated, and then that squares the face up. That puts them more behind the mass of the club head, so it doesn't go too low. Okay, so what I've done to really learn this and teach this to my students is you just start slowly, okay? You set up at address, you take your normal lead hand grip, right? It's got extension in it, and then just go to that excessively turned down position. So you can see my right wrist is bent, my lead wrist is bowed, and now the face is shut, and it's what I call hooded. Or I've basically taken my 8-iron and it's almost like a 6-iron. So it's very turned down to the ground. Now from here, I'm in a little bit of an impact position already. It's hooded. I'm gonna just take it back and do my best to hit a straight ball, okay? So that was Hack Motion going off, reading the data there. We're cheating there a little bit because we're just starting with that lead wrist bowed. But let me just tell you how important this is, especially if you hit drivers that curve right or they spin too much, you don't get a lot of roll. You do not know how to flex and turn down this lead wrist, which it's important with irons for when we want to compress one and trap it, but it's really important with driver in order to kind of lower our spin and get the ball to turn over and hit that lovely push draw. But man, I'm telling you, out of 99% of the players I coach above a 10 handicap, so it probably could be you, they're doing this through the golf ball. Look at that extension on Hack Motion. So with that, there's really no way for them to hit a draw that has a lower spin rate, so the ball will roll more, okay? What also helps with driver, when you get to it, even though the driver's like this too, this tilt and being behind it helps me to hit it really high, okay? Now, obviously, it's a whole lot easier to come down and be on top of it and cup my lead wrist, okay? the better one's always a little bit tougher, but once you start getting some of these sensations, right, of turning these knuckles down, hooding the club at impact, your body starts to assimilate, because at first you probably will hit it dead left. Most of my students, when they first do this drill, right, they set up, turn the knuckles down towards the ground, the face is hooded. If they do their normal pattern, it's going straight to the left because my body's too far ahead. So they have to learn how to shift, move, stay behind, have a little trail side bend, right? Which really, long irons and long clubs just love that, in order for us to get the right matchups. By matchups, I mean you have a club that's gonna hit the ball very low and left, and you have a body and torso position that's gonna really help the ball get up in the air and put me in a more levered position where I'm behind what I'm hitting, okay? Compared to most impacts, they're up here like this. The chest is forward and the lead wrist is cupped. So that's really a big epiphany for a lot of my students, just practicing doing this and then actually hitting some golf balls and figuring out what their body needs to do to support it. I think it'd be huge for you. Check it out. I've got a great series that's been going on for a little bit now that people have been loving. It's all about stuff like this. It's all about how to gain compression. It's all about the proper movements of the body and club through the ball so we can gain more compression, gain more free speed, just centrifugal speed through the ball by how we use the ground in our body, gain a little more leverage. It's not about big swing changes. It's just about improving the heartbeat of the golf swing, right? Really important time. So check it out. There's a link below. Click on that link and you can check out the compression clinic. I'm sure it'll help your game. I'll see you all next lesson. Have a great day.